All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Beyond Spraying Pro 1000. I am your host, Spraying Pro 1000, and today we are going to play Massive Catch Up because I have written out a whole bunch of stuff. I just never got around to it, which is unfortunate. I didn't intend for it to be that way, but unfortunately, between me hurting myself back in February and, just generally not really getting it all together, I've been really behind on it. So in any event, let's just hop right into it. First things first, a lot of this is going to be old news from like the start of February to today is March. Oh crap, the Steam pop-up just popped up. March 13th, 2022. As you may or may not know, today is daylight savings time, so ideally this video goes up today as well. I mean, obviously, if you're awake at this point, you pretty much know that. So that's fun. Lost an hour, so hope that's going well for everyone else. For me, it doesn't really bother me too much, but I felt it earlier in the morning. I was like, oh yeah. It's really when you look at the clock, it's like a mental shift. It's like, oh. Yeah, there really was no 2 a.m. But anyway, Blizzard announced a new survival game. Not really too much to say about this. I mean, at this point, Blizzard, despite being bought out by Microsoft, I still kind of feel like there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of people to be replaced. There's a lot of culture to change. There's just a lot wrong with Activision Blizzard. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with the company is not to turn this into yet another Activision Blizzard episode, because Lord knows we could talk about that till the cats come home, about all the vile and awful stuff that went on there. But I do think that there is, it's good to see that they're trying to move forward, if I had to say something new. The problem is that if they don't get rid of the problems, and now it's more like Microsoft's problem, if they don't get rid of what led to the problems in the first place, then ultimately nothing will change. Even if, like, let's say they got rid of all the weird workplace culture and all the people who sexually harassed and did all this stuff to the female employees and whatnot. If the work ethic and if the goals are not there, then what does it matter if they purge those elements? Like, that's the biggest thing I think that we could take away from BioWare. I almost said from Anthem. From BioWare and their failure with Anthem. And I mean, it's also a wider EA problem, I feel, but, just specifically BioWare with Anthem and Mass Effect Andromeda, now trying to take on two big projects in Mass Effect 4 and Dragon Age 4. I think one of the biggest problems is that, they survived for so long off of bad workplace culture, which was just crunch and that everything would work out towards the end of development. And now I really am worried, well, not really, because I kind of like laughing at them when they fail. But, now I am really kind of, I guess if I had to say, I'm really kind of concerned that they just might not be able to do that anymore. Like they might not be able to pull off stuff like that any longer. And I think that that's going to be something that Microsoft has to deal with and manage. And I mean, obviously, it's a big company, they have money, but that alone doesn't guarantee their success. I kind of, hope for the best, wish, things might go badly, but, wish for the best, hope for the worst, I guess, if you want to have some laughs. But anyway, you know how it is. Now, speaking of Blizzard and Microsoft, and by extension Activision will release the next 3 CODs on PlayStation. After that, it's not known what they will do. Now, this goes hand in hand with later news that Activision will not be releasing a Call of Duty in 2023. So they will be releasing a COD game this year, which is presumably going to be Modern Warfare 2, the new era version of it. Who knows if they'll like give it a subtitle or something. They'll probably give it a subtitle or something. In the same way that technically Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare and Call of Duty Modern Warfare are 2 separate games. This is something that I know, in my opinion, I wish it happened a lot earlier, because a lot of the COD games I liked, only had a year life cycle, and then they were basically on legacy mode. And a lot of the COD games I like, basically from the MW2 era up to Black Ops 2, and even I guess I could throw in Ghosts, because Ghosts is kind of a leftover of that era, even though I didn't like the campaign or the extraction. I really think that there's something to be had there, is what I would say, is that there's something really awesome that they had going for them in that era. But because of, they would have DLC for it, they would have, I think, like up to 4 DLC packs, You know, this was like when back in the day when they would have tons of DLC for games, and every game would get like 4 multiplayer map packs, and they'd all cost 800 Microsoft points, which they ditched this system, as I said on one of my previous streams. They ditched it a long time ago. Now, instead of Microsoft points, we just pay money, right? I mean, what's the difference? 80 Microsoft points was just $1. It was just a really unnecessary conversion. And I think that part of the exclusivity of Microsoft is that they have to weigh and balance. Like, hey, we could drive people to our console if we deprive them of games like this. And remember, Microsoft now has Call of Duty under its wing. You know, it has, Skyrim and all the Elder Scrolls and all that. Microsoft is playing very future positive. What they want to do is they want to grab, I guess you could argue, ailing developers, right? Because Blizzard and Activision as a whole, maybe not Activision as a whole, but Blizzard for sure was kind of just like an ailing tumor a little bit. Like, Blizzard was not, there was just too much bad PR. Stuff has not really gone well for them. I don't think Shadowlands did anywhere near what they wanted. StarCraft is over. Diablo's somewhere in development. You know what I mean? Like, it's really rough to say, like, and Overwatch 2 is just like, prior to the acquisition, who even knew when that was coming out? You know, especially with the allegations, it's like, no work is being done on WoW. What makes you think any work is being done on Overwatch 2? But Microsoft is playing very future positive. You know, they might have missed stuff like Doom, Doom Eternal, Wolfenstein 2, Prey, what's the other one? Dishonored 2? There was another Arcane. Deathloop. Deathloop was a PS5 year exclusive. You know, but now with things going forward, you know, the next generation of Bethesda games might very well just only be exclusive. You know, and it might maybe take a generation or two, but who knows? You know, 5-10 years in the future, you know, you might really start to see that things really slant towards Microsoft, where they have this continuing, you know, this ecosystem. You know, obviously Microsoft funds the shit out of them, and they get all the other stuff out of it. You know, you might really start to see, sorry, I turned my head the wrong way, a major shift in terms of what game developers are willing to put out what where. It'll be like kind of like the old days. Remember back with the 360 and all that stuff, but like way different, because now it's not just like indie games or, you know, studios just producing games. Like, the studios are owned by the publisher. They're not just making exclusives for the publisher anymore. They are literally owned by them. I mean, I guess they are still technically making exclusives for them, but you know what I mean. It's different to say, hey, Microsoft will throw you a bone. Our next game is whatever. And we're still owned by a neutral company like Ubisoft or whatever. You know, it's very different than, well, Microsoft owns us, so of course our games are on the Series X, and who knows if they're coming to Sony. I mean, nowadays it's whatever. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like, okay, Sony owns a console, big whoop. It's not a huge deal, or like it's not a huge deal to port to other consoles. You know, but like even still, it's kind of one of those things. So good luck with that. Rockstar confirmed that there will be active development for the next GTA. Now, for me, this is kind of a big thing, because I like Rockstar games. I like them the most single player. I love Rockstar single player games. I absolutely enjoy the shit out of it. You know, between GTA 4 being one of my favorite open world stories, and Red Dead 1 being just overall a great game, I absolutely enjoy Rockstar games. Now, as of late, not so much. I mean, as of late, they've only really put out, what, like 2, maybe 3 games, right? Like GTA 5, which was like the culmination of like that whole, you know, 6-year like dump. Every year there was a Rockstar game. It was like GTA 4, GTA 4 DLC, Red Dead 1, what was 2011? LA Noire, which I thought was really like just what a masterpiece. Maybe not in terms of replayability, but goddamn, the authenticity of that game feels so good. Obviously, you know, they really got the time setting and the feeling. It was like watching one of those boomer shows that my parents used to watch. What else? After 2011, it was Max Payne 3, which was kind of cool. And then finally ending in GTA 5. And then I guess 2014, you could say, was GTA Online. And since then, it's just been GTA Online. And the only exception to that was Red Dead 2. Now, I'm not really too sure about how Bully 2 factored into this. I think it's like been canceled or so. I don't really know, because I wasn't really paying attention to it. But it's good to know they're making a new GTA. but I just wonder if the magic of GTA is kind of going to be lost a little bit, especially with cultural shifts in society. You know, I wonder if they're going to be as willing to criticize stuff and parody it as they might have been 10 years ago when things were different. I mean, who knows? I'm really optimistic for it, but I won't lie. I am kind of like on the side of, well, you know, it's been a long time. You know, maybe they'll still got it, maybe they don't. But I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, because even though I wasn't the biggest fan of GTA 5, and I still kind of enjoyed it at the end of the day. So I guess we'll see. I preferred the more like focused campaign of GTA 4. 3 characters kind of diluted that a little bit, but whatever. Now, right out of the frying pan into the fire, Resident Evil 4 Remake. Now, I just played Resident Evil 4. I played it again. I played it for the channel. I've actually never played it for the... No, that's a lie. I technically started playthroughs on it twice. Once on the PS2, once on the 360. And then I just stopped. You know, I had no real reason. But I played it on the Wii because that's where all my good save files for it are. I'm really a huge fan of the game. It's one of my favorite survival horror games of all time, as I'm sure a lot of people would also say, because it's a very fun game. It's a very well done game. I don't think anyone would deny that Resident Evil 4 is definitely a shift for games in general, whether it's single player horror games or over the shoulder shooters and stuff like that. I think that's always kind of cool. I really like it. I really liked it. It's really one of my favorite games. Of course, they're remaking it instead of Code Veronica. I've already ranted about this, so I'm just going to keep it brief, just in case this is your first time hearing it. I really feel that Code Veronica definitely deserved the remake treatment, because they've already remade Resident Evil 1. They even remastered it with new controls, which I was really into that about almost 7 years ago, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I was basically speedrunning it almost. Light speedrunning, nothing serious. I did a couple of runs. My best one, which was knife only, is one of my first streams. It's still on my channel, and I want to try to learn how to do that again. But Resident Evil 4 Remake, or I'm sorry, Resident Evil 4 is definitely a product of its time. It's a mid-2000s game. It came out in 2005. Basically, what they're going to do to it is they're going to gut the shit out of it. Now, that's not actually what they said, but you know how things kind of go in the modern era. They're going to adapt it, change things. I mean, look at the Resident Evil 2 remake. I mean, I think with the Resident Evil 2 remake, most people would agree that a lot of the changes are good. I think with Resident Evil 4, they might try to, like, tone down certain things in the game. I'm not even talking about, like, Lewis's saucy comments. I mean, like, maybe the escort quest, right, has come in the 2010s. That was like the focal point of stuff like Sarkeesian's rants about women in gaming and stuff, and just in general, I feel like it's a point of annoyance for people. You know, it's definitely something that you have to learn. It's definitely something you have to play around. But, you know, I feel like if that part of the game goes away, then there's not really much of Resident Evil 4 left. Like, part of the element of Resident Evil 4 was certain chapters you have to escort Ashley, who is a major character in the game, and basically, you know, pretty much defenseless, as you would expect anyone without real training to be when facing down horrors like El Gigante and other stuff. So yeah, they're basically already saying it's going to be more of a horror game. So not really sure what that means. I'm sure it'll still be on the RE engine. I'm sure they'll update it and all that. So it'll look good without a doubt. They're going to make several changes to portions of the game. What that entails is pretty much open-ended as hell, as far as I'm aware. I'm not really sure what that means. In fact, let me open this really quickly, just because I have a link here from IGN. I kind of still reasonably trust IGN. Yeah. Can I pull this up, actually? That would be, like, really helpful for when I'm actually talking about this. Here you go. Okay. New details have emerged from the long-rumored Resident Evil 4 remake, including the potential direction the yet-to-be-announced game may take. Sources claim that Capcom is not looking to make a strict scene-by-scene remake of one of the most popular installments in the Resident Evil series. The outlet reports that several scenes in the game will change dramatically from the original, with a decent portion of the game reportedly taking place at night, which may include the early scene where Leon fights off hordes of infected in a village, blah, 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 etc., etc. Okay. It may give side characters more roles and more screen time. So that could include things like that could include, well, see, they say here like Assignment Ada and Separate Ways into one package, but Assignment Ada is non-canon. So I guess maybe take elements of it and put it into Separate Ways. Separate Ways is already difficult. That's kind of like one of the selling points of it, I guess, but whatever. Yeah, so they're already talking about things like they're gonna take more inspiration from the original versions of the game. If you remember, Resident Evil 4 had a ridiculous amount of betas, basically, like ideas that they were throwing out and working on before scrapping it and stuff like that. Most famously, one of them was called The Hooked Man. I think it was scrapped because it was too similar to Nemesis, they think, or I think they said. Another one became Devil May Cry. They kind of retooled it and changed it up a little bit, and it became Devil May Cry later on. I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like this is going to be a case of where they're going to change too much, and then it's not really going to be the same game, because this is one of those games, like, you kind of can't really fuck with it, because, like, so many people know so much about it. I'm not even just talking about me. So many people know so much about it, and so many people have played it. Like, so much of it is, like, well-known and documented. It was, like, a really big game. I think a lot of people did playthroughs on YouTube years ago, which is kind of cool. And I think that one of the biggest problems with trying to remake a game like that is that, like, it's inevitably going to be shot for shot compared to the original and meticulously drilled apart. Now, for me, the Resident Evil remakes have been more or less okay. I think one of the biggest reasons I say only okay is because, one, they don't really do anything to fix the canonicity of the series, which is one of my biggest complaints about the first 3 games. And technically a little bit of Code Veronica, but Code Veronica's plot is kind of set in stone. Resident Evil 2 Remake's, like, biggest foible, I feel, is that the B campaigns, like, don't really complement the A campaigns. Like, if you play Leon A, Claire B is just Leon A. Well, like, yeah, there's changes, right? But it's not really, like, feasible to me that, like, Leon is doing his thing and Claire is doing her thing, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not really companion pieces. You still fight more or less some of the same bosses. So it's not like, okay, well, Leon fought this, so Claire fights that, or Leon did this puzzle, so Claire does that. You know, I kind of wish that they had taken the extra step to do that. That's, like, one of the only things I could say about it, though, because otherwise it was an amazing package. Resident Evil 3's remake was just awful in a lot of ways. They tacked on some shitty multiplayer, and instead of keeping things like active time events, I forget what they're called, actually. I forget what they're actually called, but you know what I mean, the live choices and stuff, and the diversified replayability of the game. They moved a lot of stuff around, and then they just basically said, well, this game has no variables. None. They took out all the randomization of it, because that was one thing that was cool about Resident Evil 3, is that there was a lot of randomization in it. Right? So, like, I think at one point early in the game, you either, or I forget, at one point in the game, you either get the grenade launcher or the Magnum, and then whichever one you don't get, you get later in the game. And things like that, you know, different enemy types and variants could spawn. You know, if you were to reload a save when you enter a room for the first time, different types of enemies could spawn. You know, and the whole idea of Nemesis running around really should, like, really lend itself, you know what I mean? Like, the idea that this thing, you know, that what I considered when I played it originally in, like, 2000 something, I was like, wow, even a game that was almost, like, 8 years old or something, when I played it, you know, it's still refreshing to see that this one enemy is so persistent. Yeah, it makes the game harder, you know, maybe, whatever, tweak the difficulty if you need to for casuals, and just, you know, make life easier for me, too. Resident Evil 3 really had, like, a lot of replayability because it only has one campaign. You could argue that Resident Evil 2 only has one campaign with minor variations, but at the end of the day, each campaign does have different portions. Whether you're playing Leon A or B and Claire A or B, you get different weapons, the fights are different, you know, there's different enemy variations and stuff like that. I think that, like, what they did with Resident Evil 2 Remake, I feel like the blueprint was totally there for Resident Evil 3 to overtake that. And that's why I just have had no desire to replay Resident Evil 3 Remake, as opposed to Resident Evil 2 Remake, where I played all the campaigns multiple times. Of course, this has nothing at all to do with what I'm talking about with Resident Evil 4. It's just to emphasize that I feel like after Resident Evil 3, I'm not really the hypest for a Resident Evil 4 remake. I mean, I'm pretty much gonna get it because I know it'll be decent bang for my buck. But I do kind of feel a certain type of way that, one, they have skip code Veronica, and two, I think they're gonna do a lot of different stuff. So they will expand Ada's campaign to have more stuff in it. Side characters will have bigger roles, so who knows how this will fit into the lore. Like, I assume by that they mean like Luis and Krauser, right? Krauser might get, referenced a little bit more in the game, which it'll be kind of cheesy, I feel, because Resident Evil 4 is still kind of a modern game. I feel like Resident Evil 4 is really a modernized game. It's like the cutoff point for like modernized survival horror and stuff. And I guess they'll remove some of the cheesy dialogue and other stuff like that. But, I really do feel like when you remake one of the best games of all time, you kind of just can't really fuck with it too hard. I don't know. Any event, I'm sure I'll talk about this again because, again, I love Resident Evil 4. It's one of my favorite games. As for a lot of people, let's be fair, it is one of the most popular and considered to be one of the best games ever made. So we'll see. We'll talk about this at some later point. I do like that they're trying to make it scarier. I don't know if my good buddy Chicago Typewriter is going to come out again or come back, but whatever. I guess we'll have to wait and see. So, yeah, no problem with that, but, there was a Nintendo Direct on February 9th, 2022. The first thing that they showed off was Fire Emblem Three Hopes, which is a Musou-style game in the same vein as Fire Emblem Warriors and the two Hyrule Warriors games, which is kind of cool. Advance Wars 1+2 Boot Camp actually got pushed back because of ongoing real-world events in Ukraine and other places. Well, specifically Ukraine. That got pushed back. No Man's Sky is coming to Switch, which is, good for Hello Games. I respect them. It's not my type of game, but I'm glad that they were able to, they put in the work and they were able to redeem themselves a lot. I think that to me is meaningful. So good for them. Mario Strikers Battle League is coming out on June 10th. It's, a Mario sports game. I think Mario Strikers puts me to sleep, if I'm being honest with you. Splatoon 3, they said would be sometime in summer of 2022. They're also remaking Front Mission, which I think is kind of cool, and that they would do Front Mission 2 at some point in the future. Front Mission 1, the remake will come out sometime in summer 2022. Then they showed off a couple games. They showed off Star Wars The Force Unleashed, which, fucking old game. I didn't think it was good 10 years ago. I don't think it'll be better now on the Switch. But, if you really want to play it, right, apparently the Switch is getting, a lot of OG Star Wars games, which is kind of interesting. They had KOTOR. I forget if KOTOR has come out or not. Maybe it has by now. They got KOTOR and a couple other things, whatever. Assassin's Creed Ezio Collection. If you really buy this, I guess you just couldn't get a Steam Deck and you really, really just wanted to play this on the go on your Nintendo console, because that's already been out for 6 or so years on fucking PS4. And I know that because I was considering, it's actually the first game in my PS4 library, I was considering playing it back when it was new. In fact, if right here on the box, I have the box for it. I hope you can still hear me. Let me see. Am I still on the waveforms? Yes, I am. Let's see here. It says on the back here, you get a free movie ticket to see Assassin's Creed opening in theaters December 21st, 2016. So that means that this came out, at least sometime probably summer 2016 without even looking. It's actually on the front of the fucking box. Did I use this to go see the movie? Because, I think I might have. Yeah, I think I might have actually. Did I? Maybe. Because I went on a date technically to see Assassin's Creed. I went on a date to see that and what was the movie? Rogue One. I went on a date to see that. I liked the girl. She was nice. That's besides the point. Let it come back. But yeah, that's how I know how old that is. It's good that games are accessible on more consoles, but I could tell you right now it's not going to run that well on the fucking Switch. And maybe it will, but I feel like you could get a better performance out of it on any other console. I feel like that's what a lot of Switch ports boil down to. It's not it's just hey, you want to maybe play it on the go? I mean, like, the Steam Deck's coming out, but the Steam Deck is going to be rare as shit, and it's also, like, twice as expensive, so maybe I'm out of touch. I don't know. SD Gundam Battle Alliance, Chrono Cross The Radiant Dreams basically is like a remaster of Chrono Cross, which is kind of cool. That's April 7th. Kirby and the Forgotten Land is March 25th, which I'm actually looking forward to. MLB The Show 2022, I don't really care about baseball games, which is funny because I actually like Mario Baseball, but that's like the one Mario sports game that went nowhere. It actually got a sequel, but I didn't play that one. I only played the one on the GameCube. Kingdom Hearts Integrum Masterpiece for Cloud. Yeah, you know how I feel about cloud-based single-player games. Someday they're going to turn off the servers and you're just going to be screwed. Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series is coming out July 8th. I kind of always wanted to try that series. I never actually got around to it. Portal Companion Collection is cool because it's Portal 1 and Portal 2, I think, but I have never actually played Portal 2, believe it or not. I know that there's a potato somewhere involved, and, like, it was a game I was going to play a long time ago, and I just never did. And then, like, everything about Valve ended, like, what was it, the year after that, pretty much, right? I just never got around to playing it. Like, it wasn't, I own it, like, I think twice over. I think I own it on PS3. If I take a look, oh god, where's my flashlight? It's middle of the day, but that corner of my room is dark. Yeah, I own Naughty Bear, too. I was supposed to play that as well. I think I own Portal 2. Maybe I own it digitally, because I don't see it from where I'm standing right now. I feel like I own it digitally, though. Alright, Prototype, PlayStation All-Stars. Yeah, I own it on PC, though, for sure. But at this time, I don't know, I just didn't play it. I mean, like, Portal 1 was cool, but I only really got it because it was part of the Orange Box. If it wasn't part of the Orange Box, I probably wouldn't have gotten it, to be honest with you. And I ended up liking it. Live Alive is, it's Live Alive, right? It's finally getting a remake. I think I talked about this at some point in the past, or at least I talked about it with someone, like how it was this unique-ass SNES game that literally never came out in America. Well, it's getting a flat-out release on July 22nd, so I guess that can be put to rest. I think that's kind of cool. The drum game Taiko no Tatsujin, I never liked it. It doesn't interest me, but there's a game coming out for that. Triangle Strategy is already out, and I'm actually liking it a lot. Cuphead The Delicious Last Course. Here we go. This is one I really wanted to talk about, is Metroid Dread is getting an update. So Metroid Dread is getting two different modes. It's getting Dread Mode and Rookie Mode, which respectively are one-shot difficulty and easy mode, basically. Boss Rush Mode is also coming out in April, which will basically probably have you fight all the bosses. Maybe they'll give you like a set, amount of energy tanks and missiles. I might try those. But I'm trying not to fall in the pattern of just playing Metroid Dread over and over. I played it at least 3 times for the channel. I'm probably not going to play it, anytime soon on the channel. Maybe on a stream in like a couple of months, maybe I'll play it. But I'm trying not to just turn into a Metroid Dread streamer. I want to play other games and stuff. And in fact, today I even want to maybe play some stuff if I have time. Earthbound and Earthbound Beginnings are coming to Switch Online. Now, my problem with Switch Online is like, with every subscription service, especially every gaming-related subscription service, is that someday either the servers go off or they just take it down one day. I don't think Nintendo will take down something like Earthbound, right? Because that's like one of their B, maybe even C tier franchises in terms of popularity. But I just feel like when you actually have the game in your hand and you own it, or like it's downloaded to your console, I think it's different. Like, I'm assuming that, they don't patch the fucking console, right? Like, let's say, they don't do that weird shit, because that would be a whole other conversation of fucked up. I think it's cool that you can have that sort of thing. I think it's cool to be able to say, I have it, I own it, it's downloaded, let's go. I think that that's nice. I think that that's really awesome. And I really don't like the idea that you have to sub to get it. Like, I think that that's kind of really lame. I think that one of the cooler things that they could do with Pokemon, with stuff like this, is just, why not let people re-download it if they bought it on the Wii U? And the more and more time goes on, the more and more it seems like they would rather just pump it to an online service and then just have you basically stream it online, which I think is just an awful wrong way to go about it. I personally would not prefer that at all. I think that that's awful. But I mean, it is what it is, right? Like, I don't know. That's why I have no choice. I have no desire to really replay it on those, even if, even with Nintendo Switch Online. I'd rather just play it on my Wii U and all that. Just personally. Zombie Army 4, Getsu Fumaden, which I always think it's cool that they fucking brought back Getsu Fumaden out of nowhere. Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, Himagami Chronicles. That's already out. I kind of wanted to play it, but I'm not like a super huge... I like Demon Slayer, but not enough to buy a game for it at full price, probably. Lego Brawls, 2 Point Campus, and then lastly, the last two ones, as usual, Nintendo Directs always end on a huge bang. Mario Kart 8 is getting paid DLC. I should correct myself. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is the Switch version, is getting paid DLC. They will be adding 48 flashback courses, is a 6-wave rollout of old courses from previous Mario games. So they showed off stuff from like Double Dash and Mario Kart Wii and all these other games and stuff like that. And for $25, they are adding 48 courses to the game. Now, in case you don't know how many courses are in the game currently, if you were to just buy it tomorrow, there's already 48 courses in the game. There was 16 new created courses for the game. There were 16 flashback courses for each one. There's four courses per cup, basically. So there were 4 cups with for new courses, which is 16 maps. There's 4 cups for old courses, which is another 16 maps. And then they had the DLC, which was a little mix of like new and old. I think it was 2 and 2. So believe it or not, they are actually doubling the amount of courses that will be available in the game. Now, this probably means that they're not planning to make another Mario Kart game at all for the time being, but I won't deny that being able to double the size of your game for $30 is pretty lit. Like, that could give Mario Kart 8 like a huge revitalization, which is kind of cool. I kind of want them to add more characters, though. I forget if they talked about that. I don't think they did, but I would like them to add more characters to Mario Kart 8, because I think, you know, having more people is never a bad thing. Specifically Mario characters, though. Putting Link in was kind of cheesy, but whatever. Even though I like his course, but you know what I mean. And lastly, they announced Xenoblade Chronicles 3 for September 2022. So basically, if you're a Xenoblade fan, you got what you wanted, because you're getting a sequel to Xenoblade 2 and Xenoblade Chronicles DE, which is kind of cool. If you're like me and you like X, you get to suck a dick, so that's how it usually goes. Sony had a State of Play a month later, basically. Hold on, really quickly. Okay, anyway. Sony had a State of Play on March 9th, 2022. I don't really have anything else from that between period, if I'm being honest with you. Sony did a State of Play. Basically, it was supposed to focus on what Japanese developers were doing, which is cool, but as with most State of Plays, I kind of just end up feeling like they're really El Cheapo knockoffs of a Nintendo Direct. So, like, there wasn't really anything I could definitively say was like, wow, this was, like, really awesome that they announced this. So right off the bat, Exo Primal by Capcom is essentially what people wanted Dino Crisis to be, but instead it's a weird, like, co-op team competitive shooter where, like, 5 teams of 5 go at it and fight dinosaurs that spawn from the sky. And I think I'm not alone in wondering if, like, hey, why didn't they just make Dino Crisis 3 or remake Dino Crisis 1 and 2? It's obvious that people want that, you know, especially with the RE engine and the other Resident Evil remakes doing well. Why not make a Dino Crisis game and completely lock down that market? Now, I know the fad around dinosaurs, you know, in the post-Jurassic Park days is not as high as it used to be, even with the new Jurassic World coming out. I don't even remember what it's called because I don't care. But, like, even with that coming out, you know what I mean? Like, maybe, yeah, the fad around it is definitely not as ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's definitely something that's kind of faded. But I think that would be really... I don't need to explain why that would be cool. I think with the technology that we have now, you could really have a cool, in-depth horror game featuring dinosaurs. And no one has really captured that niche. So, like, instead of doing that and, you know, leaning into their horror elements, which Capcom is known for with Resident Evil, and Dino Crisis kind of being a spin-off, or, you know, like, not a spin-off, but, you know, same engine, same style as Resident Evil for the first 2 games. Yeah, probably the only ones anyone even fucking remembers. they decided to just not. I feel like they could have removed the time travel elements from Dino Crisis, and they could have just gone full Jurassic Park, you know, and just that would be cool. And to this day, I don't think there's ever really been like a good dinosaur game. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Anyway, yeah, so we get Exoprimal. Now, my biggest thing about competitive team games like this is that I think that fad is kind of fucking over. I think it worked for Overwatch, and as Overwatch stagnated and rotted and decayed, it just kind of stopped being as good as it was originally. So now it doesn't really work anymore. If I had to be 100% honest with you, I don't think a lot of people are clamoring to play co-op shooters, you know, with competitive elements. It's almost like one of the biggest snoozers I could think of. Like, at least Battle Royale is interesting because, you know, it's fun to watch, it's exciting, you know, you get to watch the teams whittle each other down, use resources and terrain, and, like, that's present in these co-op shooters, but, like, they showed off two dudes basically playing Reinhardt while the other guys shoot, like, a Triceratops and stuff. And all I could think is, like, all the money that they put towards this could have just been used to make a what's the engine called? Yeah, the Reach for the Moon engine, the RE engine remake of Dino Crisis, just using the same, you know, tools, same everything, and just slap Regina in it, you know, maybe make a little more realistic take on it, and just call it a day, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like they're doing extra for probably a game that most people, you know, I think it's supposed to come out early 2023. A year from now, you know, a year and a half from now, is anyone even going to remember that this game came out? And that's not to shit on the idea. I'm sure it's someone's passion project. But at the minimum, you know, they could have pulled a Resident Evil 3, you know what I mean? And just, like, had it be some weird, like, add-on or something. I just feel like single player games are just always where it's going to be at. There's nothing more fun than playing with yourself. Feel free to take that out of context if you will, but you know, like, multiplayer games live and die by their population. Battlefield 3 is already, or I'm sorry, Battlefield 2042 is already down to like 1,000 concurrent players. The game is almost unplayable now, and it hasn't even been out for more than 6 months. You know, like, that's what I mean. Like, a Dino Crisis remake is out forever. You know, there's people, you could go on any streaming website, people probably still play Dino Crisis 1, because if you just want to play it, you just put it in, or you just boot it up and you just play it. You know, I think I even own it on the PS3. But, like, I just feel like this is a swing and a miss from Capcom. This is them not reading the room, right? This is them just choking yet again, because I feel like the Resident Evil 4 remake is a choke. It's a miss in lieu of a Resident Evil Code Veronica remake, which is, you know, definitely a game that deserves and needs that treatment. And it's a swing and a miss. I don't know what else to tell you. I think it's a mistake. Ghostwire Tokyo got shown off. Now, I know that's made by Shinji Mikami. I respect the hell out of that man. I just don't know if Ghostwire Tokyo is a game I'm interested in, especially for full price. So I'm kind of a little iffy on it. Maybe as it gets closer, I'll do some research on it, but, you know, whatever. Forspoken is a game I actually genuinely don't care about. I think Square Enix is just some weird fucking project. I don't care. They showed off Gundam Evolution, which is yet another team-style Overwatch game. It kind of looks more like Titanfall to me, so I actually kind of like it because, you know, who better to do a big mecha fighting game than fucking Gundam? You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of been their thing since, what, the 70s? The 80s? Or something? So, yeah, that's kind of their thing. Respect and props to them. Actually, when did Gundam go? Was it the 70s? Or am I thinking of Astro Boy? Oh, God. Gundam always looks so cool, man. Yeah, 1979, I was right. Yeah, it's the 70s. I don't know when the first anime came out. Oh, shit, Mobile Suit Gundam, the original, is from 1979 to 1980. There you go. I was right. It's a 70s anime. And they have so many of them. I like the OVA. The OVA was really fucking dope. I thought that's one of my favorite things about Mobile Suit Gundam. I absolutely adored that shit. But anyway, not to turn. We could have a Gundam podcast for sure. I'll bring on Gundam Otaku. He loves Gundam. I'm a little bit new to the field, but I absolutely love the OG, Zeta, and I think ZZ. I think I saw a little bit of. And then I saw the OVA recently on Toonami. That was like a year or two ago almost at this point. So it wasn't super recent, but I enjoyed it. What can I say? It's actually really kind of dope. It's in my opinion, it's one of the OG anime series that you can't go wrong with. But anyway, not to get too nostalgic about it. To me, that's kind of cool. I haven't looked too much into it. I think it's on more consoles, and hopefully it's free to play. In fact, let me actually look it up because I may be interested. Let's see. I think it's going into beta first. Yeah, it's on Steam. Oh, I have my VPN up. Let me go on Steam on my actual Steam browser, which, by the way, I fucking love Steam sometimes now. Steam is so good. There you go, Gundam. Yeah, it's free to play. Planned release date 2022. Can I even show my Steam window? I don't think so, so you're just gonna have to take my word for it. Yeah, it's free to play. And you could request access for a playtest, so maybe I'll actually try to do that. Yeah, maybe I will. Can I just hit the button for request access? You receive an email when the developer's ready. Sure. Okay, there you go. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. What can I say? I think it's going to be probably a really cool game. I think it has potential. You know, nothing wrong with them putting their foot in the door, right? If Titanfall's on the way out, perfect opportunity for them to step in. They announced the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection, which is a collection of old TMNT games, probably like from the SNES and, you know, side-scroller days, arcade games and stuff. I'm always for these collections, even if they don't interest me, because I like that they're making available, like, arcade games and older games. You know, nothing wrong with them. This is exactly the kind of thing you should do as a company, right? Hey, we want people to be able to... We want to get money off our old shit. Well, let's re-release it. Especially in the digital era of today, I promise you, stuff you buy now, barring some huge collapse or catastrophe, should still be playable on shit 20 years from now, because that's the infrastructure we have now. It's like if you buy a Series X game, you know, there's some fucking 360 games you could buy on your Series X right now. You know, I love that. I hope the next consoles, Nintendo and Sony, get the fucking message. Backwards compatibility is a great thing. It makes sure that everyone has a fair opportunity to play games that maybe they weren't even born to play. And I think that that's important, because I think that a lot of people should have the opportunity to play games and should have the opportunity to experience things. You know, when I say, wow, Mario Sunshine is a great game, you know, someone shouldn't groan because they missed out on the Mario 3D All-Stars collection, and then they have to go buy a fucking Wii and a GameCube controller to go play Mario Sunshine, and then a copy of Mario Sunshine. I think that's something that Nintendo refuses to do, and it drives me up a fucking wall to think that they still don't understand this when they only stand to make money from a system like this. You know what I mean? They only stand to make profits from a system like this. Just think about it. Imagine if they had a collection just like what they have on Microsoft and Sony. You know, why you got to subscribe to an online service? Fuck it. Just let people download Ocarina of Time. I don't know how Ocarina of Time has been available on every console in one form or another since it came out. But, like, why has Mario 64 not been available on every console? You know, why have all these other games not been available on all these other consoles? Why is the Wii U, like, the best anthology console they ever made? You know, like, why does that have, like, the most coverage other than, like, GameCube games? And even then, it's got some GameCube games, technically. Let's be technical here. Pikmin 1 and 2 have Wii versions, but they are GameCube games. And apparently you could use a controller for Resident Evil 4 on the Wii. I've never done that personally, but apparently you can. You know, stuff like that. Like, yeah, they're ports, but you know what I mean. Like, there's the GameCube has been, like, horrifically underserviced by Nintendo, and as someone who grew up playing so many classics from the GameCube era, it bothers me that, like, you know, people come by my streams, maybe they're too young, you know, maybe they weren't around when you know, in the 2000s, and weren't, you know, 6 and 7 years old to play this. You know, a lot of people, you gotta remember, time moves on. You know, like 20-year-olds today weren't even born in the era of 9/11. They don't even know what dial-up is. You know what I mean? Like, so it's a different world with different people in it. You know, like, for me, you know, I'm a 95 kid. You know, even some later millennials don't even know stuff like dial-up, right? Like, I came in right at the cusp, right at the end of that era. But I still remember the fucking noise. It's hilarious. But, like, you know, people weren't always around, and I think they should have an opportunity to be able to play these games, you know? Obviously, online games, there's nothing you could do. But that's why even 10 years ago, I was saying always online games are kind of a mistake, because inevitably, they all fail. They all go away because people get bored. The only exceptions to that are MMOs. And, I mean, we already see what's happening with World of Warcraft. Not going to get into that. And, you know, single-player games are always the way to go, because you can always play with yourself. You don't have to rely on anyone, and I just think that Nintendo is routinely dropping the ball with this. Now, Sony is also doing it. I think Xing out their PS2 and PS3 games is going to be a big mistake. Now, obviously, the PS2 has a billion games. Obviously, not all of them can come back. But I do think that, to some degree, you know, like, it's like with the whole thing about movies and stuff, right? It's like, think about all the movies and art that was lost. Like, yeah, it's obviously not all of it's good. Obviously. There's no, even watchable is debatable. But it's still art, and I think video games kind of have a little bit of a leg up because, you know, video games are relatively recent, you know what I mean? Especially, basically, what is it? Next year will be the 40th anniversary of the 1983 video game crash? So, we're not even half a century, you know what I mean? Movies have been around for over 100 years at this point, easy. But you know what I mean? Like, video games don't suffer from that, I feel, because every game is kind of playable on some level. Every game is kind of decent, right? Like, even if you hate a game, like, let's say you hate Assassin's Creed, a lot of people fucking hate it. It's still a playable game. It's still a game with a story, leveling, characters, all that. It's not like you're watching a shitty movie. There's still more involvement and investment, and it's still better than, like, the average sort of a thing. And I really feel like Assassin's Creed Assassin's Creed. I feel like video games have that sort of niche, and they should be playable. They should be available. You should always have a way for people to be able to buy your games, and especially when prompted, right? You know, Nintendo been asked 1,000 times to death about this shit. And I get a little sick of the defenders for this, where they're like, oh, well, you know, all this stuff either Switch Online or who nobody wants to play. Fuck off. People want to play a lot of old games. I like playing old games. A lot of people want to experience stuff, and there's no reason for them not to be able to. But then, like, in fairness, then Nintendo just shouldn't complain about people fucking pirating. They just shouldn't. And as I've gotten older, I start to see more and more wisdom in that logic. And I'm sorry if that's, like, mind-boggling to someone. But the era of me being nice and saying that they're going to get their shit together and, you know, figure it out is kind of drawing to a close. And I think really the Mario All-Stars collection is like the epitome of that. I see no reason why they had to have it as a limited time thing other than to create artificial scarcity. Like, you could even argue we don't even want to make the cartridges for it. Fine. But why do you have to take away the digital version? You know? Like why did that have to go? The digital version is just data. And you mean you think people are not going to buy Mario? You know, a collection with arguably some of the best versions of these games? You know, like, people are not going to buy that? Really? Is that really what you think? Because I would beg to differ horrifically. I think people would still be buying it to this day. When they re-release Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD, you think no one's going to buy it? You think everybody played it on the Wii, and not only did everybody play it on the Wii, no one's going to rebuy it? They're just going to all say, oh, fucking, I don't care. No, really? So then why would they release Twilight Princess HD? Other than the fact that the Wiimote's not supported. But you know what I mean? Like, there's tons of games that get re-released and remade. You know, people still should be able to play the original. And I think that that's a fumble. That's a L. That's fucked up. But I mean, like, that's just how I am. Credits to Nickelodeon and I think it was it Konami that made the TMNT Cowabunga collection? I don't know who. Y'all real G's for that. Because now I went on a whole big rant about something else I didn't even want to get involved with in the first place. But you know, I feel a certain type of way when people can't experience stuff like that. I do. Speaking of which, they literally remade ActRaiser, so that's kind of like a counterpoint. Is like, who the fuck you remember what ActRaiser is? That game was out before I was even born. Giga Bash, which is, I don't know, some like kaiju fighting game. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R is essentially the second game in the All-Star Battle series. I don't think it'll focus as much on story as IGN Eyes of Heaven. But it's good that they're still doing that, especially since JoJo's still popular in the West. Part 6 is either airing or it's finished. I'm not sure which, because Netflix has the distribution rights or some shit. Trek to Yomi actually kind of looks cool. So I kind of am keeping an eye on that. Returnal is getting co-op. It's also getting a new mode. All of it's free, by the way, which I think is kind of cool. I just kind of feel bad because I feel like Returnal's old now. It's almost a year old, and it's kind of like no one's talking about it. So hopefully that helps, but I feel like most of the people who wanted to play Returnal have played it, and as much as I like the aliens like style art of the game and the retro futuristic nature of it, I do kind of feel a little bad about it. And lastly, Square Enix showed off Diofield Chronicles and Valkyrie Elysium. Diofield Chronicles is basically like anything to not name a game Final Fantasy Tactics, I guess, right? Like between Triangle Strategy and Diofield, anything to not name them what they are, which is whatever, so. Nier Automata is getting an anime, so that's pretty sweet. Yeah, here we go. Activision may be delaying 2023's Call of Duty. Bethesda is retiring the Bethesda launcher and moving to Steam. I mean, if you've even used the Bethesda launcher, you probably saw this one coming. I mean, let's be fair here, it's not great. Gex had a trademark filed by Square Enix, so a couple of people were wondering if that means that there's a new Gex game, if you even remember what that is. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl has a Shaman gift. It expires on the 27th of March 2022. That is only 16 days. I'm sorry. That is 2 weeks from today. Sorry, 2 weeks from today. So if you better hop on it. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it myself soon because I'm not missing that. And lastly, see, like, I know I'm gonna be a salty bitch about this because I just went on a huge rant about video games being accessible and available. WiiU and 3DS eShops are ending. Now, really quickly, because I was asked about this on my stream, one of my Arceus streams, I think it was. Hold on just a sec. I was asked about this on one of my Arceus streams, so I'm gonna put it out here. That is not the fucking thing I fucking opened. What the hell? Where is it? Why is it not updating this? I closed this tab. Hold on. This is being weird. I closed this tab ages ago. What the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck? Oh, was it a different window? Oh, I opened a different... Okay, I could use this window. Okay, I was like, what the hell? How is this not... How is it not updating? I'm like, did OBS glitch? No, I opened it in a new window. That's what I did. Okay, so we could actually use that window. That's actually really smart that I did that, and I'm a dum-dum, so I've already forgot. Anyway, why is it not showing up? What the fuck? Oh my god, hold on. I want to put this on screen just so everyone's on the same page. Oh god, Jesus. Hang on, okay. Okay, I don't know why that was so hard to do. I have no idea. But anyway, Nintendo will be discontinuing the Wii U and 3DS eShops, and this applies to everything from that era. It's all dying. This is basically the death blow. As of late March 2023, it will no longer be possible to make purchases on the eShop for the Wii U system and the Nintendo 3DS family of systems. It will also be no longer to download free content, including game demos. And so you might think, oh, okay, late March 2023, that's a year from now. I got time. Well, as of May 23, 2022, it will no longer be possible to use a credit card to add funds to an account on the Nintendo eShop on Wii U or 3DS. So basically, you will no longer be able to use credit cards, presumably also debit cards, in order to fund your account, including just maybe, I think there's an option to just pay whatever's required. Yeah, that probably not going to work with this. I wouldn't chance it. Don't play chicken with this. As of August 29th, 2022, it will no longer be possible to use the Nintendo eShop card to add funds to an account in the Wii U or the 3DS family of systems. However, it will still be possible to redeem codes until late March 2023. And then they talk about how you could do all this. Obviously, no changes for the Switch because they're still milking you on that. And it's very unfortunate. It really is you'll still be able to re-download things if you've already bought it, but you will basically not be able to buy it again. Why is this happening? Oh, fuck you. It's part of the natural product line. So think of all the games that are not available. One of the big ones that people were talking about was like Fire Emblem Fire Emblem Fates Revelations will no longer be purchasable, because the only way to play that is to either own the special edition, which at this point is rare as fuck, or to buy Conquest or Birthright and then to buy that game. I mean, they say like we're providing this in a year in advance of, I'm sorry, more than a year of advance to the end of purchases, but then they go back here and they like, you kind of, you know, like fucking fucked us out of the main way to make purchases. It's kind of weird. It's fucked up. Yeah, both systems, you'll still be able to re-download and download existing software updates, but you cannot purchase new content, download demos, or anything else. Oh, you can still get free themes from the theme shop. Very nice. Isn't that good? And yeah, and then they say for the foreseeable future. So, like, you know, there you go. Now, someone might have asked, well, why not add all this stuff to Switch Online where possible, right? And they just have no plans. They just don't care. So thank you, Nintendo. Really appreciate that. Just spot fucking on, assholes. Really love it. Really appreciate that. So, I mean, like, if you want to buy something off the Wii U and 3DS eShops, well, you better fucking hurry. You don't have a lot of time. I mean, I remember earlier this year, they bullied Sony into not doing that because, again, like, think of all the games that are just either going to become exclusive or lost if Sony were to do it. And really what it shows is the necessity of having an online digital marketplace where you can find stuff like this, where it's easy to find niche titles and niche games like this. And well, games that are going to be niche and stuff like that. So if you want virtual console games, as you know, I really spend a lot of time collecting stuff on my Wii U. I highly recommend that you look into it. Find yourself a cheap USB if you need to. Get what you need. And yeah, because as of, like it said, what was it, May 22nd, you will no longer, was it May 22nd? Yeah, May 23rd, 2022, you'll no longer be able to use a credit card. That immediately makes it more annoying, because now you got to go get points and all this other stuff. And just, I'd rather you be done by then. So roughly you got 2 months to figure it out. So best of luck to you, whoever you are out there. And much love, because I respect someone. I respect people trying to complete their collections and get stuff. Anyway, that's all I've got. I kind of get a little sad thinking about it, because it really is the end of an era. But moreover, it's the end of, like, a lot of accessibility for these things. Like, if you don't want to play always online fucking versions of these games, you get to suck a nice juicy dick. Because let alone if they're available on the Switch, fuck. You know, like, I've been on Switch Online back when I had it like a year or two ago. It wasn't that great. The emulator shit is not that great. I'd rather just be able to, you know, play games on my local console, locally, that I own and have. But at this point, I'm ranting like a boomer. You already know, I already gave my rant with the Cowabunga collection, so there's not really much for me to say. Nintendo are being assholes here. Again, who are they hurting? Probably themselves at the end of the day, because a lot of people who would want to buy these games will just say, oh, I guess I just can't buy them. Nintendo doesn't offer them. Or they'll just fucking emulate them. So then, like, you don't get to bitch about emulating. You don't. Because they could have GBA on the online, like, even with how shitty the service is. Not that it's bad, but like that the notion of like a subscription-based service, just, I don't like it. At least they could be available on it. They're not even available on it. I think that's one of the biggest problems. But any event, that is it. We are all caught up on big video game news. I will continue to add to this as time goes on. I'll make a new podcast hopefully next week, and everything's going really well. So I hope you guys are having a good time. Everyone take it easy. Have a fun, enjoyable start to spring and daylight savings time, and I will see you later. Goodbye.